Meet Dashhound, a collab between Air New Zealand and Parrot Dog. Short-bodied and high-flying, this NZ IPA bursts with tropical fruit notes and a relaxed bitterness. Brewed with NZH 109 hops for smooth landings and laid-back getaways. Grab one exclusively on selected flights and in main Air New Zealand lounges. Nice. This week we chat with structural engineer Joel Marsh from Pocket. Joel brings a point of view to the relationship between architecture and engineering that all in the design field would appreciate. We kick things off just as Joel has had to relocate hotel rooms due to a bit of a plumbing issue, and then dive into creativity, collaboration, black holes, and the burning question, what is the biggest cantilever you have designed? We hope you enjoy.
High drama. So I just got myself into another room now, but
Have they moved you?
they moved me.
Lucky.
But I'm not joking.
Nice.
It was a swimming pool in there. It was
That's hilarious.
absolute panic stations.
That's the worst place. Are you on like an upper level?
I was like 10th floor.
Shit.
I'm now down there. I was thinking, it's going to flood all the other rooms. It's going to go down through the floor. It's like, it's volumes of water.
A funny story. I had a friend who ran a bath in a hotel and then fell asleep and forgot that she'd run the bath, and it just kept going and absolutely tanked the place. I can't remember what she said, but it was in like the hundreds of thousands of worth of damage.
Man, it's brutal.
Not good. Well, are you up there for a bit?
Just tonight. So
You're still running the washing machine?
Yeah, I am. So I'm just here for a night. I sort of I try and come up every couple of weeks if I can, because we've got a guy on the Pocket team that's based up here. So it's normally
St. Heliers.
In St. Heliers. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So
Ben's done his
nice.
homework.
Oh,
yeah.
I
Nice.
walk past pretty much every day. So
Do you? You go past
yeah,
there?
I walk down the waterfront and back.
Nice one.
Yeah, so
How do you
Pretty
find
close.
that working with a remote team?
I guess like we're getting to grips with it. You know?
Yeah.
I don't want to sort of sit here and say it's all roses. Like there's definitely challenges, more challenges, I guess, than if you were just in person.
Yeah.
But I've got to be thankful for Daniel. He's been up for that, and he's been up for the sort of unknown of that and just how we kind of figure it out and navigate it. So I think overall it's been good, but yeah, certainly some stuff to figure out. And I guess like one of the biggest things is just, helping him feel like he's part of the fold. And
Yeah, it's a tough one.
yeah.
Not
So,
feeling isolated.
Is he new, did you say?
he's
New to the team?
actually been with us 18 months now.
Okay,
Damn.
that's
Yeah,
definitely...
so
he's
we,
well integrated.
he's been
That's
with
like
us
as old as my whole company.
Yeah, he's been with us a wee while. Yeah, time goes quicker. I think one of the things we've done reasonably well is just try and get him down, like every so often. So he'll normally come down for a couple of 3 nights or something, and just kind of mesh in and be in the team. Yeah,
And do you have jobs? Do you have jobs up here? So at least you can kind of look after them if you do.
Yeah, we've got a few.
That'd be
We've got a few running. I guess that's been new as well. Just trying to, I guess, get to
Enter
know
a new market.
enter
When
a
you
new market, and
Yeah.
Become a national firm.
I think that's maybe a bit strong, but I think. Well, no, we'd like to. We would like to. I think for me with Daniel, I'd met him, and it was kind of like, well, he's really well aligned. He kind of understands what we're trying to do, and I kind of shifted into how do we get him on the team rather than the reasons we can't sort of thing. Just try to think outside the square. I could sense he was up for thinking a bit differently as well, and just bit the bullet and went for it. But it's not easy, You come in, we came in like knowing we needed to try and drum up work up here. It wasn't going to be sort of a sustainable thing to kind of feed him with work from Christchurch, so we needed to work on relationships and just getting out there and getting our name out there and all that.
Quite a cool way to drive it though, with the the ambition of what you're looking to do. Forefront rather than coming up, getting the work and then trying to fill the void.
Yeah, I think so. There's probably pros and cons, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've definitely picked up some good stuff. we're more known in Christchurch than we are in Auckland. That's just a reality at the moment. But we're just trying to get the profile up there. I guess the key thing is just trying to communicate what we're about and why it's different, maybe.
Yeah.
To kind of maybe some other engineers, I guess.
It's a good segue into what we're going to chat about.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
That's the long-winded intro. Thanks, Joel.
That's good.
Yeah. No, I think the reason that I wanted to get you on, I've been thinking about this chat for a while, but just wanted to have a chat about the intersection of architecture and engineering, really. And you guys being a really design-led engineering firm, where the architecture outcomes just as important as making sure the thing doesn't fall over. It's always been something that's been really forefront, and we've worked together in the past and known each other for a while, and thought it'd just be cool to get you on and pick your brains and have a yarn about our two sectors and how they can combine and create better buildings, really.
Yeah, man, I think it's definitely my favorite subject. I think the biggest thing is, I think it starts with just like trying to understand from an engineer's perspective. I think it's trying to understand what an architect is wanting to do. And some of it, I feel, boils down to some almost quite basic stuff, but is often, I think, not done well. So like a big thing we talk about is just let's have some good comms, especially at the start. Like we're pretty big on, hey, can we actually have a meeting? Can we just, because we just like to hear from you guys what it is you're trying to achieve. Because I think so often you sort of receive a set of architectural plans, and straight away with that, it's almost unknowingly you're making assumptions about what's important. You just do, and you sort of go in there and you start doing your engineering thing. You go, I'll put this in here, and then actually
put that 300
massive
UB in here.
Yeah, I was just complaining to Ben.
Those spans.
I was just complaining to Ben, Joel, that we've got this. It's a small batch in Riversdale, and the engineer for that is designed 410 UB for about it's not that big of a span. It might be 8 to 10 meter beam, and I'm like, it's just too big.
Absolutely savage.
Yeah,
and I think the skillful bit is understanding what the constraints are. And we think we have learned you can't do that without conversating. So that's been a massive thing. And then I think what that unlocks is you can then get a feel for what it is you're actually trying to achieve. So even if something that's on paper at that stage, it might be that we can propose or say something else and still be achieving that objective, even if what's shown on the paper isn't quite aligned to that at that point. And you definitely can't reach that place without conversation and really understanding what you're trying to achieve. So I think it's just trying to reach that nice balance. And I think in the early days, like straight up, like I think we probably fell a little bit on the side of, we'll just make what work, what the architect wants on these plans, we'll make it work. But sometimes it just doesn't stack up, like financially or whatever. And we've had to really grow in our skill of just like being confident to talk and kind of really express some of the thinking behind it. And
like when someone's trying to, I don't know, keep like a ceiling thin or a wall thin or something. So you kind of have to like throw a lot of structural elements in there in order to make it achieve what their design outcome essentially. And that ends up costing a lot more money than expected. Is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
I think so. And sometimes that solution's already on paper, and then it's like, oh crap, we need to change that. But actually, if we just had a conversation, we'd have understood, well, that wasn't actually quite as sensitive as we had assumed. I think some of it sounds like 101 stuff, but just communicating really well. I think the other thing we've done that I heard a big syndrome a lot was what I call the engineering black hole, which you probably get a feel for what it is straight away, but it's like it goes off to an engineer and it literally goes into a black hole and then it pops out the other side and it's precisely what you didn't want.
Yeah. I was about to say this when you're talking about this collaboration side of things. I mean, so often, and a lot of it I think stems from my point of view, I try and control the project team as much as possible, because you want to work with people that you, work well with, know what outcomes you're going to get, and ultimately it's going to be the best for both worlds. But, you got to respect it's a client's decision at the end of the day. And those times when you do get settled with, it's maybe a bit critical, but let's say it's saddled with someone, that you don't necessarily gel with, or maybe that's not that into like working collaboratively, you're right. You literally go, here are our plans. Let's have a chat about it, and you don't hear from them for months. And then all of a sudden there's a solution that's given, and you're like, what is this?
A big thing I talk about is there's quite a famous quote actually, but basically it's this idea of that there's many engineering solutions to problems, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people seem to think, I think, that engineering solutions are singular. They're not, right? What I mean by that is there's many solutions to a problem, but the trick, I think, is finding a good solution to the problem that is balancing the constraints. And I don't think you can come up with a good solution without really understanding from your guys' perspective as architects what it is you're trying to achieve. That's a massive, massive thing. And then I think there's a drift, or there's this tendency in the industry, which I find upsetting, but like, let's just name it. It's there where it becomes quite transactional between an architect and an engineer.
Yeah.
And like we're trying to work on it being relational. There's that difference between we're actually trying to understand you guys, what's important, what your drivers are. Whereas when it's transactional, it's like, here's the architectural plans. I'll get my engineering back. It doesn't lend itself to good solutions. It may well be a solution, but chances are it's not a good one.
I always find it frustrating when engineers and it goes both ways really, when you're asking for drawings at key endpoints, stages. They're like, when you've finished your detailed design, give me the drawings and I'll do my blah blah blah. Or like, once you finish your details, then we'll do our engineering. Well, we should really be working in tandem to make sure that this thing sings, and I think that's where that's where the successful outcomes will fall down, is when it's transactional. I mean, based on that, Joel, when ideally for you, what's the best time to get involved? Day one?
I think as reasonably early as you can.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think we're going to be there quite as early as you guys, because you're doing that really formative stuff of understanding what a client wants to achieve. So it probably wants to be in a having a drawing. Obviously, is a starting point. And sometimes we do actually get people come to us with no drawings, and we just have to say, well, we need to sort of see something. But then, I think as early as reasonably possible, because I think it's often overlooked, but like a good engineer can actually unlock some opportunities. And the earlier you're in, the higher the chances are that you can, especially if it's coupled with having good conversations. And then I think another big thing we've learned to sort of like mitigate that whole issue of the black hole syndrome is like just really working on our stages and how we break it down. So for us, we have a really deliberate like concept design stage, and that's always done by the senior experienced engineers. And that's a massive just thinking stage. So it's kind of like we've had this conversation with you guys, and then the experienced engineer goes away and comes up with the structural solution to the problem. And we'll actually hand sketch that and deliver it to you very early on, like super early, like at 15%.
That was something that I was going to raise, because I know that you guys do that. And what I like about that is engineering can sometimes feel so final. It has to be that way because ultimately the building can't fall down,
Sure.
Or, the structural solution has to work. But I like the fact that you guys do that. You do it by hand, because it doesn't, even though obviously a lot of thinking and everything's gone into it, it doesn't feel at that stage set in stone. There feels like there's flexibility, which is quite nice from an architect's point of view, because I feel like we can then challenge things and continue that dialogue and that conversation a little bit more.
Definitely. I mean, like that's our interpretation of that problem at that stage, and we issue that, and that's really, it really sounds silly, right? It sounds basic, but we issue it. So we issue that set, and and the whole purpose is to facilitate further conversation.
Nice.
How does this work? Obviously we want to achieve the 101 stuff of, is this working with your envelope, that kind of stuff. But just getting that in early rather than this black hole thing, all the design's been done and got to the end. We want to try and be making conversation through the process. And I think we've found it really good. It's an opportunity for early collaboration and coordination really early on. So we kind of can shape it into the right space early rather than too late when it is too late.
Yeah. Do you find that you have engineering style, so to speak? So I guess, like, is it like more of an exposed aesthetic where you're kind of like trying to expose more of raw structure whenever possible and actually have the structural engineering elements become part of the architecture itself as opposed to, just concealing everything? Or is that
Yeah,
kind of thing driven from?
I think that's an awesome question. It comes up a lot. I think the skill is, Ben, to try and understand what is driving you guys, because on a particular project you may be wanting to actually have some express structure. You might, and that might be part of the solution. Other times we got other guys, they just want it totally hidden, and that's a certain level of skill as well. But I think it goes back to the earlier bit of like the real skill is understanding, having communicated that. Do we understand what you're trying to achieve? And if we have, then we're far better placed to get a good solution rather than one that's something that's particularly driven by us.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, I like that level of flexibility.
I think that's a higher level of skill as well. Like, one of the things I talk about the team a lot, is if a detail becomes all and more important if it's in your living room, right? Like, if you can see it and it's in your living room, we got to get that right. It can't be some hoary, like,
Or
welded
above your bed.
thing. That might work structurally, but we got to have a bit more finesse than that. And that probably leads me on to my next point of like how we layer up from there. So we have that concept stage, but then we have a very definite developed design stage where we produce a 3D model, but we only issue general arrangement, what I would call general arrangement drawings, plans and sections, elevations, and it's solely with the purpose to get it spatially coordinated with you guys. So it's again, it's like I'm saying it feels so basic, but the good thing is you haven't detailed.
Yeah.
So the primary purpose of that phase is we then issue that to you, and we do it in PDF, but also like in a PD format. You can bring it in and just check, is everything fitting nicely?
There's still flexibility there, right? There's still that room for coordination. I think the black hole syndrome, that the coordination completely goes out the window because there's a point in the project where both parties are finished, but they haven't really talked to each other. Whereas if you're continuing throughout the course, I think that's pretty cool. And I kind of like the fact that you're not ever giving away. It's not that you're never giving away the full picture, but it's no different than the way that we operate, in the sense that we very rarely we could go directly from concept design to detailed design if the client wanted to, but the design outcome is going to be far lesser because you haven't had the time to develop and go through nuance and come up with real, proper, clean, well-considered solutions. But I feel so often from an engineering point of view, what you're speaking to is you guys kind of follow our pattern of project stages rather than the more traditional, maybe not traditional, but from maybe more common engineering approach where it's sort of like, okay, yep, this is the structural solution conceptually,
right.
And here's how it's done. And that's basically it,
Yeah, I think I just see it like it should be a layered up process, right? How can you possibly move from A to B without having touch points in between? Like you've got to, in my opinion. And then I think what it does is it creates confidence. So if we have a really good coordination stage there, just spatially getting the structure fitting within the envelope, then both parties are detailing with confidence. We start detailing with confidence. We're not like, do you know what I mean? The amount of times I've seen details done and then fundamentally this position of a member just doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's useless, man.
You're definitely reducing the need to redo anything. So it definitely makes a lot of sense to me.
It does. And like, before we go for consent, we'll issue you detailed design sets. So it's fully detailed. And it's like, I think what we find often is a lot of the details you guys wouldn't be too fussed about because it's hidden or whatever, but it might be a handful where it's like, that's a really important detail, how that looks. And you can see, how we're proposing to do that. And again, it's an opportunity for you just to go, yeah, that works really well, or you might just tweak that because of this, which we haven't quite understood or seen or whatever. And again, it's just how you layer up, what you're focusing on at what stage. You want to go big picture and you want to be coming in. Whereas like if you just go back, like we could go straight to a solution, we could, and just like detail it in the dark.
Yeah.
But and it it might be all right, but it's probably not going to be all right.
It's like what you're battling with at the moment, Ben. You're
Yeah, I was
just set
gonna
of
say,
general arrangement plans or general
you
arrangement
miss
details.
so much. Yeah, at the moment we've got some engineering issues on quite a big project that we've got under construction at the moment, where they've just used a lot of typical details, and so it's so ambiguous that it's impossible to know what typical detail is required at what junction. And so, like 4 or 5 times a day, we're getting these little hand sketches from the engineer being like, use this here, use this there. And it's just such a handbrake. It's crazy.
Man, do you know what I call that? I got an expression for that. It's called garden salad details.
Yeah.
But it is. It's
Literally.
like that. It's like but you know, and I think so then the hard bit of it, I think the hard bit that we then face, because we're doing something a bit different and wanting to operate a bit differently, but in the industry, we rub against, like, we want that more relational approach and more considered to get a better outcome, which I think overall is better, if you see what I mean. But obviously, there's more naturally there's more cost
less in the
involved.
long run.
Yeah. So there's
But
more.
you have to be
there's
more
more
rigorous
cost.
up front.
Exactly. There's more cost involved for us, and right now we're getting savaged because the market's difficult. So everyone goes bang. We just go low ball,
Race to the bottom.
race to the bottom, super transactional, and then we have a real quandary because that's not our offering.
Yeah, it's funny that literally we have to sell ourselves, as architects, more or less in the same light, unless you've got a really well established reputation and you've got clients kind of knocking on your door. I literally had, made that exact same spiel like a couple of weeks ago. Otherwise, the expectation is you're working for next to nothing.
But it's a matter of then being able to appropriately portray your expertise and your niche and why you're going to you as a better solution. And I think what you're leading to, Joel, there is, okay, a little bit of extra fee up front, sure. But ultimately, in the end of the day, you're not going to have a shit ton of RFIs on site or through council, or the engineering solution is going to be massively over-engineered. So instead of
100%.
us taking the time to consider and think about a smaller member here or timber over steel there or whatever, the cheap engineer might just whack something conservative in there, and you've ended up paying for double the amount of steel you need to, kind of situation.
Yeah,
spot
people
on,
can't
and
see it.
Yeah, we
lose
lose context for it totally.
Yeah.
A good solution might save you $200,000.
Yeah.
That's mental.
Yeah.
So, well, if your fee was, I don't know, $10,000 more, it's a no-brainer, right?
I guess, from their perspective, the expectation might be that they're getting the same engineering service from everyone.
Sure.
So you have to sell yourself as to why you're $10,000 more than other engineers. That's tough.
Ben, that's so topical. Like, that's something we're really looking at because we're confident in what we're doing. The biggest thing for us is we like what we do. Like, we've seen the benefits of it. Like, it makes the whole process more enjoyable. Like, a big part of it is we're there to make life easier for architects. Like, it shouldn't be.
We shouldn't be at loggerheads.
No,
that's
we
the thing,
shouldn't.
And I think that's what so often architects will bitch and moan. I was bitching and moaning today about an engineer.
Yeah, I get it.
So often we'll do that when ultimately we are on the same team. We're trying to build the same building. Why are we at loggerheads?
Oh man, that's throwing other people under the bus to make yourself look good is classic construction, eh?
It's insidious in the industry, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so bad.
I did this. We were in the Here magazine, the last one up, and they had sort of asked me a couple of questions. And one of the ones that came through, which I thought was really good, is exactly what you just said, Sam. Like, engineers and architects are often seen in opposition. And there was this quote that I gave, which I think is at the heart of it, which is Stephen Covey quotes. He's this leadership guy, and he basically says that you need to seek first to understand, then to be understood. But the problem is, most of us, and even just outside of in life in general, but if you think about engineers and architects, we want to be understood first before we then understand.
Yeah.
So there's this thing of like just flipping the script and going, yeah, I think differently to Sam and I think differently to Ben. That's a good thing. But the fact that Sam and Ben think differently to me is also a really good thing.
Yeah.
And the skill is to be able to come together and try and understand. Like, language is a big thing. Like, why do we sketch? We want a common language. I don't want some technical bloody, like, yeah, there's some technical aspects to engineering, but I want some commonality in where we can meet
Yeah.
in a zone that we can both understand, and we can start working on our language. But, you know, some of this stuff, it's not a thing for people, right? Like, and we just go into that default mode of,
Yeah.
I'll go to my corner and you'll run to
Yeah.
your corner, and we'll all be
Yeah.
throwing shit at each other.
Yeah. It's like this little speech I used to like tell the council inspectors every time we weren't agreeing. I'm like, look, mate, we're sitting on the same side of the table. Like, we both want the same thing. We want to achieve the same thing. Like, let's just work together to find a solution.
It's funny because it's not just architects and engineers. It's everybody. It's
It is.
literally every consultant. It's sometimes the client. It's council. Everyone seems to, at some point anyway, seems to be working against each other when it's like, there's this common goal. What are we doing?
It's absolutely no good.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see why it happens and why it plays out. And it takes for someone in the mix to be brave and do it differently, right?
Yeah.
You
Do you
know,
reckon that's why Joel, you seem to, like, when you set Pocket up, you seemed to start it with the approach of kind of like, and the way that you structure your deliverables as well, mirroring the architectural process, was that fully intentional to try and like marry the two a little bit more?
I think definitely so, Sam. And but there was this aspect for it for me, is like, always was feeling like this could be so much more collaborative and so much more fun. And it's like as old as the hills, right? As a thing, you know, like everyone loves to say collaboration is great, but when collaboration needs to be great when the rubber hits the road, you know, and we need to be able to come together. Like, I think for an engineer, we've got to understand architects. We got to understand what you're thinking about things. And the other nuance about that is, of course, like every engineer is not the same. Not every architect's the same, right? So, and there's different drivers. So, a big thing I talk about with the team is you've got to treat every project on its merit. Every project's different. Every project's unique. Like, there's no cookie, like, we don't do any cookie cutter stuff. So we've got to be skillful enough to understand the particular constraints or the balance of those constraints on every project we work on. And that's a skillful place, you know. Like, if I just go hammer and tong, right, I'm going to do this exactly like I've done on another project, I'm going to get it precisely wrong.
Yeah. In a world where design speaks louder than words, what story does your space tell? At Ortex Acoustics, they believe great design is more than aesthetics. Every product they create strikes a perfect balance between form, function, and sustainability, made to enhance how a space sounds, looks, and feels. From using recycled materials to pioneering carbon-negative wool, their commitment is to help you shape environments that inspire people and respect the planet. Explore the future of acoustics design at ortexacoustics.co.nz.
I noticed on your website that you obviously work with some amazing architects. You've done numerous stuff for like the likes of Bill O'Sullivan, you know, First Light and RMA. And do you find that when you have you're working for, you know, a repeated architect, that you kind of already somewhat understand what they're looking for, or do you kind of go in with fresh eyes every time?
I think that's a brilliant question. Again, I guess it depends a little bit, like whether the relationship is new, and obviously if it's newer, then we're doing more of that understanding work. Where we've got relationships with people where we've done sort of multiple projects, I guess we start to get a feel for, you know, what will be important to them. But I'm just, I think it's really key that we still just are trying to have those conversations. And the biggest red flag for me is just assumptions. If I sniff assumptions getting made, I'm crawling all
big
over
on
that.
assumptions.
Yeah.
They've never done me any favors, assumptions.
They don't do anyone any good.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not exactly sat here going, it goes perfectly every time, because the other thing is it's that classic, you know, it takes two to tango, right? Like we can have that outlook, but then if the architect doesn't, then the transactional thing and the corners thing just actually ends up happening, because you've kind of got to come together and go, right, let's do this together. And it's not always easy, right? Like you sort of try and I guess express how you want to be and how you want to do things.
Do you ever get projects where the architectural concept is not possible? Or if not necessarily possible, it's not possible within the vision of what the architect's trying to achieve, in a real sense. Because I think that's somewhere where obviously that conflict could arise, and where you're talking about like the creativity and approaching every project on its merits. But is there ever any case where you're just like, sorry, mate, nah?
I think it does happen. I think in the early days we probably fell on the wrong side, where we'd try and make things work at all costs, and therefore I think we've had to grow and like balance that with also being brave enough to say, just as a thought, if you could
Do this
if you
instead.
you could do
Yeah.
this instead, does this still achieve, like
Yeah.
a classic might be,
That glass panel ain't going to hold that building up.
yeah, or like there's a post and it's like 4 meters back from the edge, but actually if it was at 2 meters, it really makes it more efficient, but you still achieve that like cantilever effect or whatever. And that sort of thing only comes through conversation, I think.
Yeah.
Did you know what I mean? If you're just in there and you're assuming things or whatever, and we're getting, we're secure enough to go say that and then hear it back and go, no, that's really important. I need that to be like this. Fine, great. Nothing ventured, nothing gained in terms of just, being brave enough to kind of say. Yeah, it's
But
just
that
funny,
that
isn't
also
it?
might get them thinking about alternative design solutions anyway. So you can get creative with it and kind of, if something's not working, then you have to figure out the best possible outcome to make it work. So
Yeah.
it's all part of the process.
How often are you, Joe, exploring new avenues for that structural solution? I mean, if you think about if we go to the basic, there's concrete, there's steel, there's timber, whether it be mass or whether it be stick. Like, do you guys, even within that band, but outside of that, like how much are you guys doing your own sort of R&D and research or exploration into new or alternative structural techniques?
Yeah, we're up for it for sure. I think I'd also say, like, this is sort of I something to say to the team, is that there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
Right? That says nothing new under the sun. And I think sometimes it's really easy. Engineers in particular like to do this. They're like, right, engineering is about having a brand new idea, but very rarely is that's super unlikely to happen. That I've talked about the guys like defining an idea more like the combination of things, and in a sense, like you kind of the things that have worked, but it's the combination of how those things come together to suit that particular project that's innovative. Does that kind of make sense? So
Yeah.
that's been really helpful, because it's moved us away from this. I think there can be a bit of a tendency in industry or something, or particularly with engineers, where I need to do this new fandangled thing. You actually don't. You can be innovative using tried and tested things. Yes, exactly. But it's how they go together and how they fit within the constraint. And that's been really great for the team in terms of unlocking this idea that ideas, we often imagine brand new things. And I'm saying actually an idea is often how you take old things and put them together in a new way.
Yeah.
And that's been really enlightening for us. It's like meant we can, it's just like unlock things for us and gone, okay, we could think about it like this. Could we do that? And then suddenly we're thinking, oh, that was an idea, but it might not have been, the newest of newest things.
Just adding to Sam's question, I guess, do you think that like the engineering structural engineers kind of being influenced or anything by the likes of AI or anything like that? Do you think it's kind of having any effect in the industry? Like for architecture, it doesn't seem to be too much, significant stuff happening that's got an immediate effect, but there's a
The
lot
design
of
side.
innovating. There's a lot of innovating like happening around us that could, in the near future, change a few rules.
Yeah, I think there's definitely things like certain tasks and stuff that are naturally going to lend itself to AI. But I think the fundamentals of engineering, and it's not often seen like this. This is a big. This is a big difference, I think, in how we think. Is it's a really creative process, right? Like it's often seen as this sort of black and white. Here's the scientific answer to this problem, and it's kind of way more creative. A computer's not going to do that, like that's that's a skillful space where I talked to the guys about this, but there's like that circus trick where you've got like a set of like cups or whatever, and you like throw one up in the air, in the middle, and then you catch it again. You know that circus trick? Maybe not.
Catch it like you catch a cup with a cup.
Yeah, catch a
Yeah,
cup with a
yeah,
cup.
yeah.
And
Yeah, I
I
got that.
talk about that like that's a bit like what it's like when you do concept design and how creative you're being. You've got all of these parameters and constraints, and the skillful bit is to be able to pick out all of that and go, bang, that's
The cup out of the air.
yeah, exactly. And because it changes
Yeah.
on each project.
I guess this is probably similar to the architecture industry, as the people that would probably benefit from current AI advancements are probably the group home builder or spec builders, people that are kind of repeating the same thing
Yeah, I
over
think
and
maybe
over
where you've
again,
got
potentially.
where you've got like a really basic, super basic set of constraints. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I think it'd be interesting to see where it goes, I guess.
It's interesting because I feel like engineering and its and the simplest understanding of it seems like something that computer could take over. But like we're talking about, all you're going to get is those basic solutions. Whereas your approach to it is from the more creative sense. It's just not going to be the case. And we've talked quite a bit on this podcast about it and how architecture, obviously can benefit from the caddy nature of AI and how it can assist us on the side. But ultimately, like the solution side of it and the creative side of it can't really do. Would you ever see it, just running the numbers for you, doing the nuts and bolts? I mean, do you take any pleasure in producing all those pages of calculations which we get given and
No one
quickly
even
skim
looks
through,
at
or is that always a bit of a chore?
The council like to think they look at it.
Yeah,
The council pretend they look at it.
We do, but that's again, we would sort of see that whole calculation space a bit differently anyway. I think it's seen as very just do the math, whereas for us it's way more about storytelling. So yes, there's maths there, but it's more what story we're telling about this structure and how it's been designed. So I guess I can see, maybe some things in there that would lend itself to that.
that's quite an interesting take on, like, the calculation side of that, Joel. What do you mean by getting the calculation side to tell the story of the structure? Because to me it seems just very black and white.
I'm glad an architect is asking me this. This is bloody good. I think what I see in the industry is a lot, which you guys will be nodding at, is like print offs from spreadsheets and like computer calculations that are just reams, like masses of stuff that no bugger's ever going to read. I'm an engineer and I'm not going to read that. So for us, it's, we might have done some calculations behind the scenes, but when we put a calculation package together, we want it to tell a story. So we want it to be supplemented with like really good sketches of what we're at, what we've assessed or whatever. And as you go through the calculations, it actually should be something that's nice to look at. And we'd be pretty unusual in that space. So, but that's a big thing we've done in the team. Like, I think enjoying the craft of what we do and having a bit more skill in, I think storytelling is a big thing for us. Like, we want to tell a story. We want to tell a story with the calcs. We want to tell a story with our drawings. We want something to be a pleasure. Like, if you pick up a set of our drawings, we want it to be appealing on the eye and something that anyone in our industry, and be it an architect or a builder, or whoever's going to look at our drawings and go, I get that, instantly get that. It's not technical. It's clear. And some of that, I think you're right. Like, it's easy to arrive at complex. That's what I say to the team. It's much harder to arrive at something simple than it is to arrive at something complex.
I think in doing that, you must make it easier to convince or to sell your concepts to the likes of us or the builders as well. Whereas if a structural solution's come up with and we're given a, like you said, reams and reams of calculations, I've got no buy-in, it's just,
But
whereas
I think what Joel was trying to say originally was, if you read through, if you know what you're looking for, which I would imagine, good engineer would, and you're like reading through those calculations, I guess it's telling the story about how all of those structural components are working together, to
Absolutely.
form the strength or the backbone of the building. I think that's
I love
kind
how
of what I
chuffed you
picked
look,
up on
Joel.
it anyway. Forgive me if I'm wrong.
No,
No,
this is good.
you've actually nailed that. Fundamentally, that's what I say to the guys. What we do is we come up with a structure and we just make sure it's strong enough and stiff enough for whatever intended purpose. It's real core if you really boil it down, right? And people think it's about strength, but often it's about stiffness. You probably had it where, if a beam deflects too much, cause problems, right? So like that's at the core what we do. And so that calculation story is just taking them on a journey of saying, here's our structure, this is how it all interrelates, and here's how we've made sure it's strong enough and stiff enough to achieve its intended purpose.
I think there's almost potentially a disconnect on the architect's front in terms of how some of those structural elements actually work, because it's not until you have spent some time on site and you've put those bracing elements in and you've connected it to the ceiling diaphragm and bolted it down to the floor to achieve that rigidity in both directions. I don't know, that you really understand like how it's all those components are sort of intertwined and working together to form the strength. So I don't know, there's definitely so much more that goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think so. And this is where, we'd love it if architects did more of that. But in the same way, you guys should want it that we understand what you're trying to achieve aesthetically, or, you talk to an engineer about bloody this particular room layout and why it's done like that. They're just like, what are you on about, mate?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just designing a structure. But I think we've got to be better at, we're not,
So
I'm not
funny.
going to, I'm not going to be good at that, because that's not the way my brain works.
Yeah.
But I sure as shit want to be able to understand what you guys are thinking
Our
about.
simple minds.
I do agree 100% what you're saying, though, Joel, that we need to probably better understand the engineering as well, because I think we want it to work for us, but often don't understand it well enough to enable it to work for us, if you know what I mean. And I think a lot of the time that's because we've either come up or we've worked with in the past, or maybe your experience is only with those solution-based kind of engineering outfits. And so you've never had that opportunity to really intrinsically understand how this thing goes together. And all you're caring about is whether it gets consent, whereas rather than the fundamentals of the actual performance of the thing. And even in, completely honestly, I've been working in the profession for over a decade now, and I've only really started paying attention, serious attention to deflection recently, because I've realized how much it actually matters. And, and it was the amount of, and all it took was one project where the floor was just a bit flexy and clients didn't like, it was fine. The thing's not going to fall down, but it was a bit bouncy, right? And
Totally right.
Well, and that was enough for me to go, oh shit, I actually need to properly understand this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's topical, because I think one of the things I've been thinking literally last 2-3 months is, and I've just been interested to get your guys' feedback, but I'm wondering if there might be quite a simple course sort of thing that I can put together on sort of structural basics for architects, and just be able to, I think, just really in simplistic terms, just explain some of that stuff. Because I kind of feel like if there's more understanding there in the industry, and in the same way, it would be awesome if there was an equivalent course back for engineers. It's just hey, how do we close this gap and start to generate more appreciation for each other and what we're trying to achieve?
I reckon there's definitely space for it. If you go back to even the tertiary education sector, we very, if ever. I mean, I think we did you kind of do that one structural coordination paper a year that we did at university, but it's so high level that really the fundamental knowledge of it is gravity loadings and deflection, and that's about it. Right. But
I nailed it though, because my older brother was a structural engineer at the time.
You just aced it.
So he would literally teach me I don't know, the fundamentals, I guess, things you were talking about. And it was so helpful. It
It's
definitely
this-
went
this-
over my
this-
head for a
this
lot
is
of
the
it.
But we did that coordination thing at university because we individually had to really think about it. But then as soon as you get into the professional sector, it's like you stick to your lane, I'll stick to my lane, and we're not gonna harry each other. We'll just do what we do. Whereas actually I think it's way more important that from a professional sense that we're working together more and understanding each other more to get better outcomes.
I think like we have an engineer that we work with for just everything. And we have a really good working relationship. After listening to you, Joel, like I can definitely see like that also has like limitations where we're obviously not trying to like push the engineering to its maximum capacity and perhaps like dropping the ball on the potential for each design outcome, but
Sure.
it's a comfortable relationship.
There's importance in that as well, though.
And it's like the communication is, really good, which is what makes it so functional, I guess.
I think people nailing fundamentals takes you a long way, right? If his communication's great and you kind of get the solutions you need, then that's really good. But I think another thing I was just thinking then, as you guys were both talking, is it wasn't all that long ago that the architect and the engineer were the same person.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what I did my thesis on.
Right? Yes, you did a thesis on it. So it wasn't like in the annals of history, it's a long time ago to us, whatever, we've been roaming the earth not that many years, but like in the annals of history, like it wasn't that long ago the architect and the engineer were the same thing. It's only sort of in recent last few hundred years or whatever that it's gone divergent. So
but then you look at architects who have a very strong, either were engineers or have a very strong understanding of engineering. The name that immediately jumps to mind is like Santiago Calatrava, and his work, it's so phenomenal because he's able to think like an engineer, but as an architect. There's a reason that his stuff, works in the way that it does, is because he's looking at it from a creatively practical mindset, which is pretty impressive, really. And there's not that many people that approach it that way these days, I'd say.
That's rare, but it sort of almost highlights the opportunity. If we can close that gap, right? We're there. If we can close it to there, you think about what you can achieve.
This thing, we're not saying that we have to. I'm not saying I have to understand the calculations, but it's just like you said before. It's just the fundamentals, right? It's the basic knowledge that enables that higher level of understanding of how this thing goes together.
And even better if you can get imagine getting early contractor involvement, on stuff where you're bringing the buildability aspect into it as well. If you all just understand each other a bit better, and actually a big part of it's respect, right? I want to respect you guys as architects and your skill set, but I want to be respected as an engineer, and the builders also want to be respected, and we've got to give respect to them, and we've each got our role to play. But it's so often it's like corners.
Yeah.
That's my priority. And then we're scrapping it out. Where actually, let's just take a step back. What we're trying to achieve, how can we get on the same page to achieve a good outcome, right? Because all of the best buildings I've been involved in, they reflect the professional consensus of the design and contractor.
Yeah.
See what I mean? Like they're always the best buildings, right? If it's just one lead consultant, it's got to be my way or the highway. They're crap outcomes.
Yeah,
often.
and that's why, I mean, like Ben, your entire business model is the marrying of the builder and the architecture side. And I've worked with a lot of clients that are builders themselves, and they're my favorite clients. They're the best projects because you're getting that fundamental understanding from day one. But if you add the engineering to that, then it's just that extra level of intricacy, and the project's just going to be that much better. There you go, Ben. You just got to add.
Yeah, we need an engineer.
Go do an engineering
and then a plumber
degree.
And a sparky.
Go do an engineering degree, mate.
I don't have it in me, I don't think.
One of the bits that's a major problem in the industry is that we straight away make an assumption about the other party and what they're going to be like.
Mm.
And we start from an adversarial position normally.
Yeah.
Like we've had it heaps. I'm just saying to the guys, like, people hate engineers. Why do they hate us? But it's not like specific to us. Like it's, you joked about at the start, like we moan about architects moan about builders,
Yeah.
builders moan about, and we all do it to each other. But we all start from this place of it's adversarial. It's like assuming that this.
I think it's because you
engineers-
guys just never deliver drawing sets on time.
Yeah, well, that doesn't help.
That doesn't help, Sam.
It doesn't help.
Stop it.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I had to get that in.
No. It's all good. It's all good. But I think to me, I always think of it as opportunity. You do need, you do need people to want to come together and have that outlook.
Oh, totally. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think that's probably a pretty good summary. We'll probably wrap things up. Even there, Joel.
Oh, actually, hold on.
Ben's
I've
got
got the most important questions yet
Go
to
for it.
ask.
Go for it.
Got to, capitalize on the opportunity. Joel, I need to know, what is the biggest cantilever you've designed?
There we go.
That basically, if you've designed a big cantilever, you should just put that at your opening page on your website, and you'll be flooded with work, surely.
We have done 4 meters, and it was a floor, so that was pretty up
Nice.
there.
Look good.
But I can't. It does look amazing because it's literally like a box going that way and then a box going that way, and it's
Nice.
cantilevering out 4 meters, and it's got a really great aspect out into the ocean and stuff. But I think, but then what I balance that by saying like the actual engineering solution wasn't.
That's hard.
It's quite
That's
basic.
what I
It was
was
beams. It was
worried
beams.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, we could just, have another podcast and just talk about how to achieve a great cantilever.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
I
awesome.
mean, you can, and there's always ways of doing it. But there's skill involved. That was quite tricky because it was a floor. So if it's a roof, it's a lot more lightly loaded. When it's a floor, you've got more load on there, so you've got to be quite careful. But I think it led to quite a good outcome.
Do you have a preference for steel or timber or concrete?
There's obviously a growing trend in the industry towards timber, which I think is great. I have a more wider outlook, which is just that it should be the right material
Right job.
for the right job and the given constraints, and I'm less sort of it must be timber at all, for all costs. Timber might be the right answer.
Yeah.
Timber might absolutely be the right answer, but there's other scenarios where it's not for other reasons. And I think we're in that place where we're trying to, I just guess understand what the drivers are and try and make the best decision that we can. There's some amazing timber products and stuff out there, and that innovation keeps growing. But then sometimes you meet a reality, like if you've got a 4 meter cantilever floor, you're
Pretty tough to do that one out of
You're
timber.
not doing that out of timber.
just straight up, and you sort of say it how it is a bit. I just think it's each project on its merits. Like we've done CLT, PLT, SIPs. We're doing all of that stuff. Like some of the LVL products are amazing.
I was in Sydney last weekend, and a friend of ours was talking about how this is getting real technical, maybe we should talk about this after, but how all of their concrete floors in their high-rise buildings are all post-tension.
Yeah, that's amazing.
We don't do that in this country. It's so interesting. He was walking me through the process, and I was like, holy moly, that's so cool. They basically string wire in grids through the concrete and then tension it to the perimeter. And then you just don't need any supports.
Yeah, it's super clever because it's kind of basically says, look, concrete's really good in compression. Let's really wind the thing up so that when load comes on, we actually never reach a point where it's in tension, or we only just reach a point it's in tension. So you can get that much more span out of it. So it's really clever, and things like that. You don't want that kind of innovation to die just with the trend towards it just having to be timber or whatever. Like, we've still got to get balance in the mix of it all, I think, where we're making the best decisions for a given project. And I just feel like every project is different. And we've done loads of, we did a mountain hut, and we did it purely in timber, and it was the right solution because they had it prefabricated.
Yeah.
had it prefabricated, and we had it helicoptered in. So it was an absolutely amazing solution
Oh,
because
that's cool.
Is that the brass monkey?
the brass monkey, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Nice.
And it like the feedback was, and that's actually such a great example of where it can work well. So we collaborated with Graham Jacobs. He was the architect, and then we had the builder involved really early on, and like we quite quickly understood. Look, the main constraint is how do we get this thing on site? It's 1,600 meters up, right? So that's the main driver, right? How can we do this thing? And he flipping prefabbed these panels at his place, and then they got them craned in, and it went together so well. But you see, that decision was back there, like
all the way back concept.
yeah.
The beginning. Yeah.
That's such
Looks
a great
like a
example.
cool little project.
That's
for
cool.
sure.
Yeah, and it's just like the feeling around it is just one of just real satisfaction amongst the team because we just know that. Well, I suppose we know we've nailed it. Like it's
proof of concept. Projects with a proof of concept is hands down the most satisfying, I reckon.
Yeah, and there's so many ways we could have done that. We could have had steel in there. We could have had, I don't know, could have been all sorts. And there's been other scenarios where all that sort of thing has not gone well. Built in situ, trying to build it at 1,600 meters. Well, you can do that, but if you get, you'd be bound to get some pretty gnarly weather conditions. That's going to put the kibosh on that. Whereas if you just got this panelized thing and you can put it together in a really short space of time, it's a clever solution, right? And that's what I mean. I think.
Imagine if the engineering profession actually started before the architects. So engineers get in there, they design the engineering, what makes sense
Where's
for
the
the
building
project,
though, Ben?
and then
the
architect comes along. Then the architect comes along and designs around the engineering.
This
has
the potential. This has a potential to make me sound high and mighty, but the problem with it, right, with that, is we were to build square boxes, right?
And that's what.
So in all seriousness, this is literally how I see it. Like I talked to the
Gustav Eiffel, he was an engineer, right? Eiffel Tower, amazing. Some of my favorite architectures, designed by engineers.
It's a good reminder, almost to finish on. Is I would say to team, we need each other.
Yeah,
you guys need us, but we sure as shit need you. Like we don't want. I don't want boring buildings.
No. We don't want square boxes unless they're nice square boxes.
We don't. We need you guys to be. We need you to be creative, and we need you to understand what we're up against sometimes, and just let's come together and let's flip and come up with a solution together. Like it's not rocket science, but let's do it.
Yeah, that's it. Awesome, man. Well, thanks very much, Joel. It's been a great chat. I went back
absolutely
pretty much
pleasure.
Exactly the way I was hoping it would. There was a good combo.
Man, I really enjoyed it.